Hi guys, I'm Sid Patel. I'm live from London at the London Wine Competition. I'm with Greg Sherwood, Master of Wine, and he's the head buyer of Handford Wines. We're going to talk about the role of a wine buyer and how really you can be an efficient wine buyer and meet the needs of the consumer. Greg, thank you for joining me here.
Great, yeah, thank you. It's my third year and I'm pleased to be back. As I've said maybe in previous years, it's really a competition I enjoy because it kind of engages the mind as well as the palate, and then a kind of commercial kind of gearing, which I think is important in the wine trade. We know we work in a very traditional industry, and I'm certainly working in the top end in the fine wine trade. So I'm not working in a supermarket where you kind of creating buyer's own brands and working, a lot with kind of your own labels and things, where there'll be a lot of marketing and a lot of consumer targeting going in. But certainly on the top end and middle to top end, where because there's some quite premium products shown here today, and it's good to see the thought that producers are kind of putting into appealing to a current generation as well as the next generation of consumers. And I'd probably say the market probably needs to be thinking a little bit more about the next generation of consumers that are coming on board. So it's good for me. It's a good discipline to engage the mind and not just look at things in terms of what is the quality and what is the price. I've always been very pernickety about packaging, sometimes annoyingly for some producers, but when you're dealing with a category, a target market, and when you taste a great wine, you really want the packaging to be on point and on song and really appropriate for your market. And sometimes producers get it a little bit wrong. They may have a very, very high quality wine but with almost a supermarket style packaging or vice versa. So I think the new generation of consumers is definitely changing the way they buy wine.
What kind of changes the way they buy wine, and what are they buying?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for example, they're looking at, there's the whole kind of category of, a bit more ethical decision-making behind behind buying products, whether it's, organics or, good, viticultural practices, weight of bottles, a sustainability of the whole, vine to kind of bottle process from producers, just little things like that. It's not always related to those, but I think the basic point, it's a whole aspect and a whole bouquet of things, but I think the basic thing is the cues for those buyers are changing, and maybe there will be different cues for more kind of mature, established consumers, and as long as you understand that you can't do the same thing for necessarily every consumer, I think you'll already be ahead of the game in the wine trade.
I think a lot of listening from the floor has to come in, right? So that there is a shift and this is what consumers are asking for. How do you listen on the floor, right? Like people are asking your reps or someone in the store that, hey, do you carry this wine? Or the questions, is there a process that you have to consume some information to make you a better buying decision?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's about the category you work in. And because I work in a very traditional category, it's very easy to get stuck and set in very established a routine of where it is primarily looking at the quality in the bottle and what's the kind of price point. And then obviously with some of the more premium wines, there will be branding and producer histories and producer hype, which is all part of that kind of the proposition why people want certain wines. And we certainly in the fine wine trade see it more and more and more markets chasing a tighter and tighter bouquet of products in the top end.
Any particular trends that you think in 2022, especially, which are just are in high demand?
It's kind of a bit of a kind of merry-go-round. Certain countries come into fashion and kind of maybe drift out of fashion a little bit. Certainly from my side, I've just come back from South Africa, and I see from top to bottom, because it's quite a diverse industry there, offering great quality to everything from supermarkets to fine wine. There's a lot of thinking and there's a lot of dynamic things going into certainly in quality, but I think for whether it's Bordeaux, whether it's Burgundy, if you take Burgundy for example, one of the most traditional industries, you really see now a new generation of producers of their kids coming on and taking over or taking a different role within the business in preparation for taking over maybe the business one day, if they haven't already. And they are changing things. They're changing the style of the wines a little bit. They're dealing with global warming. They're trying to update the packaging to make it a little bit more relatable and accessible to a slightly younger generation. So there's quite a lot of fine tuning going on. It's maybe a little bit more drastic, in the kind of supermarket and kind of high street level, where you get some quite kind of new things and they're kind of pushing the boundaries. But the top end of the trade is still fairly traditional. But what this does is just as a buyer, makes you think a bit more about not just saying, well, the quality's there, the price is good, or the packaging's a bit funky. I mean, is it funky, or is it just maybe just outside the kind of traditional lines?
True.
So I quite like kind of thinking about, then you start to look again at the price point and the quality and what you envisage the target market to be, which is important because it's all one big package.
Sure. So on the role of a wine buyer especially, right? What is a good pitch to you? If a supplier comes to you and you just think that, do not waste my time, just give me this sort of business elements. Obviously we are assuming the quality is good here, but apart from that, what kind of information you expect them to tell you in sort of their first pitch or their presentation?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, as I said previously, presentation is key. There has to be a good presentation in whatever genre, if it's a bit more modern or a bit more traditional or classical, but it needs to have a feel of quality. Even on the entry level pricing, a poor, cheap quality, poorly designed label costs almost the same amount to print as some kind of clean, well designed premium labels. So it's kind of getting that point right. But
we're assuming that, let's say the label's amazing.
Yeah.
The bottle, the juice, price, everything is there. So where I was going is what more support do they need to show that, okay, I'll come every Friday and do a tastings, let's say. I'll do a kickback one on 10 Ks. I don't know how it works, but I'm just giving an example.
No, absolutely.
What kind of programs work on
So beyond the kind of basic level of the consumer and their kind of where we tend to deal with real kind of family producers and slightly smaller businesses generally, where there has to be authenticity in the story of the history of their product. But I think it's about once you've established that there is an interesting story, there is authenticity, and that those producers, whether it's the original parents or the new generation or the winemakers, are prepared to engage with their target market, which is, if it's me as a buyer, a lot of them just kind of pump the stuff out there and just leave it. So maybe to their agent or something, but it is really good to engage with the producers, and you see the ones that are successful if they've got a good product at a good price with good packaging. The ones that are successful are the ones that are out there, pressing the flesh, walking the pavement, seeing their clientele, fine-tuning in their minds also who they're selling to, who their target market is, knowing who their consumer is, and kind of adjusting their message and future decisions to their target market, and that's key. The more interaction you have with your end buyers, the more success you should have, and that goes from producer level all the way down to merchants like us. You can envisage what you think is great, but it's always good to kind of
to see the
interact
real
with consumers.
right?
Even as a buyer, I love being on the shop floor. I love speaking to buyers, even if they're very difficult sometimes. I love that kind of interaction because you really it challenges you to see it from their point of view, and just keeps you on your toes. And I think that's very important, as I said, in the industry that can be quite traditional and slow to evolve. So
true. Sounds good. Anything else you would want to add?
No, I just think, as I said, I think it's a great competition. I think it's got some unique angles, and but like any competition, if you do well or you win some category or you get a gold medal, at the end of the day, it's always up to the producer then to leverage that award or that medal or that kind of recognition and do something with it. That's not where the kind of train stops at the station. That's just the beginning of the journey in my mind. If you jump through all those hoops and you get something, I think that's really where it's trying to do more with that award and really get it out there and make it work for you. And I've always said that for any wine competition, from basic level up to something like this, which is a bit more kind of intricate. That's the starting point. Then, if you're successful, to really try and make the most of an award. And when you see producers doing that, because they don't all do that. Sometimes they just submit and they may win, and then it's back to the winery and back to spreadsheets. It's great to see people doing something with those awards, and hopefully that's a message that'll get out there.
Absolutely.